everyone. This is the Geoff Cowan coming to you from thegeoffcowan.com with my weekly podcast called Write Service and Write Your Own Paycheck. If you've not been to thegeoffcowan.com, you should go there, check out all the stuff. You can also go to automotiveservicetraining.com, and get some cool information there as well. Don't ask me why we have two websites. I don't make this stuff up. I just follow what my social media managers tell me I should be doing. So welcome back. I'm really excited about this podcast because I say this every week, but the audience just keeps growing and growing and growing, and we're getting a lot of emails, we're getting a lot of telephone calls and letters and stuff like that, literally letters, from people asking different questions. Well, this week's podcast, Write Service, Write Your Own Paycheck, I wanted to address one of these questions because it's come up quite a bit here, literally the last 2 or 3 weeks, and this particular question, this exact one, comes from a lady by the name of Kathy out of New Mexico, the state of New Mexico. She's been a service writer she says, for over 3 years. She loves doing the job, but she's having a struggle. And she says that the struggle that she's having is getting upsells on the service drive during the initial write-up in addition to the sales in the afternoon. She says she's under a little bit of pressure from her shop to get some of these initial sales because, as you know, if you're a service advisor, that's the stuff that you find during your walk-arounds, like maybe bad belts or fluids or tires and other small things like that. And it's important, you're probably under pressure, Kathy, because it's important that you sell those for a lot of reasons that we don't have to have the time to go into now, but sell them for a lot of reasons, mostly being the customer needs them, and the customer will typically buy it if it's pointed out in the right way, and a few other steps are taken prior to that. So I'm going to address that question. What's one way that you can get more upsells off the service drive during the initial write-up before the vehicle goes into the shop? I think it's a great question. And Kathy, I just want to make a comment here. The state you live in, New Mexico, one of my favorite. Anybody listening to this podcast, if you've never been to the state of New Mexico, the whole state is really, really cool. Very beautiful state. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be there next week doing a private event for somebody. So I'm looking forward to that. I love going to New Mexico. So you want to sell some more stuff. Well, this is great because it's going to give me a chance to talk about one of my favorite techniques ever in selling. So let me kind of set this up. Throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to work in a lot of different industries with a lot of different products, a lot of different services, and write training programs for them. I've had the opportunity to work with some of the smallest, most insignificant products or services that are really cost almost nothing, all the way up to writing training programs for very, very big products and services that cost lots and lots of money. Now, it's been very, very good for me to do that because being in the business I'm in, what it's taught me over the years is that if you really have the basic selling fundamentals down, regardless of what your product or service is, if you really have the basics down, you can be successful with any type of product if you really want to, because there's a lot of things and a lot of techniques and whatnot that transfer from one product to the other just because of if you follow the basics in selling, they tend to apply to any product or service, right? So one of the things in doing that, what I'm getting to, is that I've noticed that everybody, regardless of what the product is, what the cost is, any of that stuff, everybody likes to be reaffirmed very early in the buying process that they're in the right place, talking to the right person that can get the job done. And when you're writing service, it's really no different. Okay? As a matter of fact, I think there's a perfect time to do it in the write-up, in the initial write-up, and I will walk you to it. So let's get started. Customer comes in, you go out, you greet them, you give them your name, you ask their name, and then you thank them for coming in. After thanking them for coming in, you then ask them what brought them in. And let's say today they said they wanted an oil change or they've got a noise in the back or whatever. You then tell them the oil change, of course, is no big deal because you do billions of those every day. But as it concerns the noise in the back of the vehicle, you need to ask some diagnostic questions. And for some of you newer people listening to this, the diagnostic questions is the part of the write-up where you're asking about the concern. Left, right, fast, slow, and the like. But immediately following the diagnostic questions, but before we talk about callback times, before we talk about promise times, and certainly before we talk about anything that even halfway resembles an upsell, we've got to convince this customer they're in the right place, talking to the right person that can get it done. And the best way to do that is with a technique that's one of my favorite techniques called the buy a suit technique. And in a second, I'm going to share that technique and that word track with you. But before I do, I want to talk to you about this book, Write Service and Write Your Own Paycheck. This book just came out. It's been out for a while. It's been out for about 6 months. You could get it at Amazon.com. You can get it for your Kindle or your iPad or whatever you like. But We just had the hard copies delivered, and I just got notified from Amazon that the book is sold out. There's also paperback, the paperback edition of it sold out, but we also have the hardback copy here, and you can get it from Amazon as well. If you don't want to get it from Amazon, you can go to thegeoffcowan.com and get it there. You can go to automotiveservicetraining.com and get it there. What this book is going to show you how to do is just like it says in the title. It's going to show you how to make $100,000 a year if you write service. Now, because right now, 20% of the people in the United States of America doing this job are making six figures or more. 20%. The average service advisor makes $65,000 a year. So if you're not even making 65, this book will get you up to there. But it will show you how to make six figures. Now, not only do I have the book, but I also painstakingly recorded over 10 hours of videos to support this book to show you exactly how you can be the absolute best service advisor you can be, getting the highest and maximum sales, highest survey scores, and highest customer retention. Okay, now that is separate from this, but if you go to thegeoffcowan.com or automotiveservicetraining.com and look us up there, you could get access to that video program if you want to invest in that. And I would suggest you do. Now, if you're listening to this because you're trying to decide whether or not you want to be a service advisor, you're not sure, this book will tell you exactly what that job is about. It would be a wise investment for anybody thinking about doing this job, a wise investment for anybody doing the job. But I was answering a question for you on the podcast. It came in from Kathy from New Mexico, and what she said was that she wasn't getting enough upsells on the service drive during the initial write-up before the vehicle went to the shop. And so I went through and I talked about it for a second, and then I told you when I came back from that little commercial I was going to give you a technique called the buy a suit technique that will help you get more sales in the service drive. So let's walk through this again real quick. Customer comes in, I go out, I greet them, I give them my name, ask their name, thank them for coming in. After thanking them for coming in, I ask what brought them in. Let's say they said they wanted an oil change, they've got a noise in the back. I tell them the oil change is no big deal, but as far as the noise in the back, let me ask you some diagnostic questions, and as we discussed, left, right, fast, slow, and the like. But immediately following the diagnostic questions, but before we talk about callback times, before we talk about promise times, and before we talk about anything that even halfway resembles an upsell, we've got to convince this customer they're in the right place, talking to the right person that can get this done. And the best way to do that, again, is with a technique I like to call the buy a suit technique, and here's how it goes. Immediately following the diagnostic questions. Mr. Customer, I wanted to let you know that based on the information you've given me, I want you to rest assured that once our expertly trained technicians get the opportunity to inspect your vehicle and or hook it up to our latest in diagnostic equipment, they'll have no trouble figuring out what's causing that noise. So I don't want you to worry about it any further until I call you later today with the results. Now, when you say that to a customer at that point in time, how do you think they respond? Because they almost always do. Well, I will tell you, if you're watching them and you look at them, you'll see them relax their facial muscles, you'll see them drop their shoulders, and more times than not, they'll make a comment along the line, something like, "That's the best news I've heard all day long. I'm telling you, I don't think I could drive that car another 5 minutes with it making that noise. It's driving me nuts." Now you've convinced them. Now you've convinced them they're in the right place, talking to the right person that can get the job done, and now you can talk about callback times, and they'll be standing there waiting for the phone to ring. Now you can talk about promise times, whether it's today, tomorrow, or 2 weeks from now, no kidding, and they will accept it. And now you can talk about upsells right there on the service drive before it goes in the shop during the initial write-up, and they will buy it. Why? Because you've answered the primary question they had when they come in, and that is, "I've got a problem, can you fix it?" And you simply told them you could. It's really that simple. If you're struggling getting upsells on the service drive, the initial write-up, it's probably because the customer's not been convinced by you that you can handle what they initially came in for. And I'll tell you what, this technique is used everywhere. I see it happen all the time when I go out looking for new products and services. As a matter of fact, I'll share a story with you. This really happened to me and the wife just not too long ago. You know, not too long ago, the last one of our children moved out of our house. Now, not only did he move out of the house, which, by the way, is, if you've not experienced the empty nester thing yet, wait until you do. It's heaven. All right? So our son moves out. Not only did he move out, but he moved across the country, moved from California to Boston. So we take him to the airport. We come home. It's now me and the wife in the house alone for the first time in years. We sit down to watch a movie because we're a little bit sad. You know, he moved out and all that stuff. So we sit down to watch a movie, cheer ourselves up, and as soon as we try to turn on the television, guess what? Doesn't work. I simply look at the wife and say, "You know what? It's no big deal. We don't need a TV. He watched it more than we did. We're in the house by ourselves. Gives us a chance to re-know each other and experience life and whatever." Well, the next morning when we woke up, not having a TV, we realized that since we didn't have a TV, now we have to talk to each other. So we make a plan real quick to go out and buy a TV. And I got to tell you real quick, side note, not only did we buy a new TV for the family room that day, but we bought a TV for every room in the house, even the hallways, just in case. Now, excuse me. Now, now, me and the wife go out and we start looking for televisions, and we go to the regular spots and whatever, and it was about the third or fourth store we walk into out here in Southern California. It's a real electronic store. That's all they focus on is electronics for the house, televisions, amplifiers, surround sound, anything, computers, the whole thing, right? And so as we walk in, we go over to the proverbial wall of 50 TVs. We're standing there looking at the walls, and a gentleman by the name of Timothy, that's how he introduced himself, come over, and he simply said, I am going to guess that since you're standing there looking at these 50 TVs that you need a new television. And we said, we certainly do. Ours went out last night. And he said, well, my name's Timothy, your name is? We gave him our name, our Geoff and Candy Cowan. He says, well, Mr. and Mrs. Cowan, thank you for coming in. As you can see, we've got a lot of TVs, but what I'd like to do now is I'd like to ask you a few questions about how you watch TV so I know which one of these 50 TVs would work best for you, because I can guarantee you I have 2 or 3 that will work and I will help you narrow them down. So he asked us his version of diagnostic questions, if you will. What kind of TV do you watch? Are you going to hang this one? Is it going to sit somewhere? What size do you think you need? Do you watch sports? Do you watch movies? All that stuff. As soon as he gets through asking those questions, he looks me and the wife dead in the eye and he says this. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Cowan, I've got some great news for you, because based on the information you just gave me about how you watch TV, how you intend to use it, and how you're going to hang it on the wall and everything else, I want to let you know that I have at least 2, if not 3 TVs that will work in your home, and I can have that one of those TVs hanging on your wall by the end of the day. I've got the TV for you. My wife, who is not a dumb person, this is not what this story is about, she's a very, very smart person. As a matter of fact, most people that meet me and her say she's the smarter one. I can't say that I don't agree with that. He looks right at both of us and says, I've got the right TV. She looks right back at him and says, thank God. I don't think I could go to one more place and look at one more TV. I've had it. I knew right then and there that we had bought a TV. I didn't know which one we'd bought, but I knew right then and there that we'd bought a TV. Now, the bigger question is, why did he use that technique at that particular time? Easy. Because when you go buy a TV in today's market, flat screen TVs are routinely seen as a loss leader. There's not a lot of profit in them. So when you buy a TV for the salesperson side, the TV is not the sale. If they're standing there looking at it, it's pretty much already sold, right? The real sale, if you bought one of these here recently at a store like that, is the extended warranty, are the HDMI super cables, is the surround sound, the amplifiers, and all that stuff. But Timothy was smart enough to know he could talk about none of that stuff until he convinced us he had the right TV. Because see, had he not done that, had he not told us we had the right TV, then he'd have to walk us over and convince us he does. And so he'd be making presentations just on the TV. But since he looked at us and said, I've got the right TV, when he made his presentations, I noticed he did this. Mr. and Mrs. Cowan, when looking at this TV, this is one of the ones I think that would work for you. As a matter of fact, I know it would work for you. As I show it to you, I'm going to show you different things. As a matter of fact, I just turned it on. I want you to see what it looks like when it's connected to regular HDMI cables. It looks like this. We have set it up so we can also show you with the push of a button what it looks like if you have the super duper HDMI cables. Wow, better picture. Isn't it a better picture, Mr. and Mrs. Cowan? And I also wanted to show you what it can sound like. This is what it sounds like with no speakers. This is what it sounds like with 2 speakers. This is what it sounds like with 8 speakers and 1,000 watts of power. So what happened was he went from just selling a TV to getting us the whole package all at the same time. So what's the point? Why am I talking about TVs when we're supposed to be talking about cars? It's the same thing. They will not buy anything else until they're convinced you can handle what they came in for. When you look at them and tell you, in this scenario, I've got that noise, we handle it. You know, let me do the word track again. Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I want you to rest assured that based on the information you just gave me, that once our expertly trained technicians get the opportunity to get your vehicle back in our state-of-the-art facility and get it hooked up to our latest and computerized diagnostic equipment or simply inspect it, I'm confident that they will be able to solve this concern for you. So I don't want you to think about it anymore until I call you later today with the results. Now, I've told them that we can handle it. Now that's off the table, so let's go to what's next. Let's walk around the car. Let's point things out. Let's professionally present it. Let's ask them to buy it, and let's get the sale. If you're not getting a lot of sales at the initial write-up, it's probably because the customer is not convinced that you can solve their primary concern, and it could be a thing of trust, which we'll address another time. So there's my podcast for this week on Right Service and Write Your Own Paycheck. I really appreciate you being here. Tell all your friends about it. Like us on all the social media things, and sign up to be a subscriber and all that stuff. Go to our website, check out where I'm going to be. I've got a lot of workshops coming up too. For those of you who want to see me in a workshop talking about this stuff, I'm going to be in Chicago, going to be in Houston, and I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. Come and see me live. If you like this stuff, you would love me live. Don't mean to be pretentious, but I love doing my workshops, and people love coming to them, and they're selling very quickly. So go to thegeoffcowan.com or automotiveservicetrain.com, get signed up. In the meantime, between now and next week, when I come back with another great podcast, go sell some stuff. Get those upsells at the initial write-up, and I will see you next week. Make it a great week, because that's what I'm going to do. Thanks for listening, okay?